How does the mind work? This question fascinates psychologists. It is far from an easy question. First of all, it is not really clear what the word mind means. Does it mean brain? Not really. Certainly, our brains have something to do with our minds, but our minds are not the same as our brains. For instance, if you look at brains, you see a bulk of wet gray matter. If you look at mind instead, well, you cannot really look at mind, at least not in the same way as you can look at brains. So, what is mind really? The word mind refers to the collection of so called cognitive abilities. We have many such abilities. I'll name a few. We have the ability for perceiving. We can hear the sounds and melody in a beautiful piano piece. We can see and enjoy the stars at the night sky. We can taste the sweet and salt in a cooked dish. We can feel the softness of puppy fur. We also have the ability for mental imagery. You used this ability just now to imagine what I meant by sounds of a melody, the sight of stars in the night sky, the taste of a cooked dish, and the softness of the fur of a puppy. We also have the ability for making decisions. These can vary from small everyday decisions, like choosing between chocolate, strawberry, or vanilla ice cream, to more specialized decisions, such as when a doctor decides what medicine to prescribe to a patient, or when a scientist decides which experiments to run to study how the mind works. So when we ask, how does the mind work? We mean, how do abilities like perception, mental imagery, and decision making work? The short answer is, of course, we don't really know. And by we, I mean psychologists like myself. But we do want to know. We know some things, but not the whole story. How do we get to the whole story? There are at least two different strategies for writing the story of how the mind works. Let's call them the effects first versus the theory first approach. In the effects first approach, psychologists first try to collect many effects. For instance, the moon looks larger to us when it is closer to the horizon than when it is high up in the sky. Also, it takes longer to mentally rotate an object over 90 degrees than rotating it over 30 degrees. And it is harder for us to make decisions when no choice option is preferable on all dimensions, and instead trade-offs need to be made. While these effects are interesting, it is not clear how they add up to a coherent story of how the mind works. Without any guidance from theory, an effects-first approach seems as hopeless as trying to write a novel by generating random sentences. The theory-first approach turns things around. It first asks, what is perception? What is imagery? What is decision-making? And how could these capacities possibly work in theory? Only when a possible explanation is found does it make sense to start testing for effects. When you know what it is you are writing about, then you better know which sentences will help you tell the story.